Welcome to our Savvy Ladies Wednesday Wisdom webinar. My name is Maggie Montemuro, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at Savvy Ladies. If you have a question during the presentation, please type it into the chat window. And if you're joining us by phone, you can email your question to info@savvyladies.org. Today's presenter is Rebecca Eve Selkowe, founder of Financial Freedom with Rebecca Eve and creator of the Dominate Your Debt and Rock Your Money programs. Rebecca empowers women to take control of their finances so they can be confident, relaxed, and free around money, and have the choices and opportunities they deserve. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Rebecca, and let's get started.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I am beyond excited to be here. This is great. So my name is Rebecca, and I help women take control of their money so they spend less time avoiding it and more time using it to get what they want. So let's start off with the obvious. Debt sucks. Debt is the biggest impediment to financial freedom, and because of that, it is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. No matter what kind of debt you have, you are never, ever going to feel financially free as long as you have debt. It's just not possible. So I use this big fancy word, dominate, because it's a big freaking word, and dominating your debt is a big freaking deal. I use this word not just because it sounds super sexy, but because dominating your debt is really the only way that you can deal with your debt successfully. And dominating your debt is not just about paying it off, it's about dealing with it and being really in control, feeling super powerful and super confident, and being able to relax knowing that you are on top of it. Why dominate? Well, because the costs of debt are huge, and I'm probably stating the obvious here, but debt costs you time. It costs you time in terms of stress, in terms of worry, in terms of paperwork, in terms of juggling like crap, like which one do I pay today, which one do I pay tomorrow, like what do I do? So it costs you time. Debt costs you money in the form of interest. If you have debt, you're going to spend more money than whatever the thing that you bought cost in the first place. So it definitely costs you money. Debt costs you freedom. It holds you back, or it can hold you back from the things that you want to do. And I want to be clear on that too, that debt can also allow you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do, but in so doing, it can hold you back from others. So debt can cost you freedom, and debt costs you power. The lender is really the boss of you when you have debt, and you want to make it the other way around. So the solution to that, dominating your debt. But of course, there are some challenges to dominating your debt. Debt is something that is easy to hide and can be very lonely. So unlike weight, which is another popular subject and something that I often think about my work as compared to, unlike weight, nobody knows about it. If you're struggling with debt, it's not all out there on the outside. So there's no, or can be no external motivation. It all has to come from inside. Debt is also something that can be very hard to face. It's overwhelming. It's scary. It's frustrating. It's like, what the heck? And most importantly, I think the biggest challenge to dominating your debt is that the conventional wisdom about how to get out of it, and I put wisdom in quotes on this beautiful slide here, quote unquote, the conventional quote unquote wisdom about getting out of debt is not realistic, and it's not fair. So much of it focuses on what a terrible person you are, all the things you, again, quote unquote, should do, and what you have to sacrifice in order to get rid of your debt. And I read this article last year that I really thought was the epitome of this, and it really pissed me off, which basically said that if you have debt, you should just eat cold beans out of a can until it's gone. Now, in my world, emotions like guilt, shame, and embarrassment, which are the kinds of things that conventional wisdom about debt brings up, those are not very powerful and helpful emotions. So those are some challenges. Let's turn the ship around. Here's how we're going to rock today. Today, we are going to go through the 4 key steps to dominating your debt. And I'm going to give you at least one concrete thing that you can do for each step to get started right away. And then I encourage you, don't stop here. Be like Miley Cyrus. We can't stop. We don't stop. We got resources to keep you going. So if the 30 minutes is enough here to get rocking, like, freaking go for it. You can't see me. I'm like, throwing my hands up in the air. Freaking go for it if this 30 minutes is enough for you to get rocking. But just know that I teach a 6-week program on this. It is badass. If this time together today gets you super pumped and wanting more, stay in touch. And for everyone, whether you go your own way or you do stay in touch with me, I will be sharing resources to help you can't stop, don't stop, just like Miley after the call. So I encourage you to scribble some notes with your favorite writing implement, whether that is your computer, iPad, pen and paper, or something else. Those are the only things I can think of. Scribble some notes, and we're going to rock this. Okay, so just so we get on the same page first about what debt is. Debt is a big responsibility, and it is created when you borrow money to buy something now and agree to pay it back at some point later. So the money that you've agreed to pay back is quote-unquote debt. That's it. So once you have debt, there are only 4 ways, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 4 ways to get rid of it. You can pay it off. That's way number 1. You can get it forgiven. That's way number 2. You can default or declare bankruptcy, and note that not all forms of debt are going to go away this way. There's a little asterisk there, only for certain kinds of debt. Or you can die. And also note that not all forms of debt are going to go away this way either. So today we're going to mostly talk about the first one, the paid off one, because honestly it is the most common, and it is what is going to make you feel the most powerful. I will touch briefly on consolidation in the context of some other things, but just note that that consolidation, which I hear a lot about and I get a lot of questions about, consolidation is not a way to get rid of debt. It's just a new way of paying it off. It's a new plan to do number 1. So consolidation is not a way to get rid of debt. It's just a new plan. So I'm going to touch on that briefly, but not really focus on it. So, whoa, weird. What? Like paying it off is the way that you're going to feel the most powerful? Yes. Hear this, one of the big takeaways. I put it in bold. Holding back on your loan obligations does not hurt your lender as much as it would hurt you. Remember that all debt costs you time and money and freedom, so the longer you have it, the more money your lender gets from you. And obviously, well, maybe not so obviously, and holding back on your debt obligations can absolutely ding your credit, and you need credit for other cool things. So if you want to feel powerful, holding back on your loan obligations is not the way to do it. So we're going to go through the 4 steps to dominating your debt. And to feel most in control, confident, and relaxed, I encourage you to do all of these steps, and I encourage you to do them all in this order. So step number 1, debt domination. Step number 1 is know your why. Now, most people do this backwards, and maybe this will resonate you when I say this. Most people will start with cutting back and then starting to throw all of their money at their debt, or they avoid it. But if they're going to actually attack it, they start with cutting back and just throwing as much money as possible at their debt. Maybe you're making like double or triple the minimum payment and hoping that it goes away that way. Well, I just want to tell you right here, right now, today, that doing it this way, trying to be on top of your debt this way, is good, right? You're attacking your debt, but it puts you at greater risk of getting into what I call the stinky cycle of debt, which is when you pay off all your debt, use your savings, and then find yourself getting back into debt again because you have no savings and something comes up that you need to pay for. So you get into this stinky cycle where you're constantly in debt, getting out of debt, getting back into debt, out of debt, into debt, out of debt. So you're at greater risk of getting into the stinky cycle of debt if you start with the numbers and or wasting money because you're not doing a calculated plan to get out of your debt. So because you don't know what you're doing, you're not necessarily paying as close attention as when you're dominating, you're more likely to do it again, and you're going to feel worse throughout while you're going at it because your focus is on sacrifice, deprivation, what you're giving up, what you're cutting back, what you're dealing with on your debt. So when you don't start with the numbers, you can set clear and concrete goals to move towards and to focus on what is important. I call this soft and squishy beginning the sunglasses at night approach. I don't know, I hope I'm not dating myself. I hope you all know this amazing song by Corey Hart from the 80s called Sunglasses at Night, where he's like, I wear my sunglasses at night so I can. Well, this is the same deal. I want to get rid of my debt so I can. And the reason we want to start there with knowing your why, with the so I can, is because when you're guided by something that's yours, something that's bigger than the debt and bigger than the numbers, it becomes way easier to dominate it. So for me, I'm an attorney, right? In a past life, I'm an attorney. And to become an attorney, there's lots and lots of education to pay for. So I had 4 years of college, I worked for 2 years, and then 3 years of law school. So when I graduated from law school, I had $168,000 in debt, and my minimum payment was $1,700 a month. And I started off making a big, fancy six-figure salary at a big, fancy law firm. And there is, yes, to this day, there is a lot that I love about law and being a lawyer, but I have to tell you that big firm environment was terrible for me. And if you knew me back then, I was not in any way, shape, or form smiling as much as I do now. But as long as I had that debt, I was stuck with that job. And there may be some of you here listening who can relate to that. So my why with respect to my debt was I need to dominate this debt so I can leave my job and do what makes me happy, which turned out to be being my own boss, running my own show, and teaching and coaching women to find financial freedom. So career fulfillment was my why. For you, it may be something else, and we're going to figure out what that is. So here is your first workout, your action step, which is your so I can workout. And I want to take 60 seconds right here, right now, so no excuses, we're going to do it together, to jot down your answers. This is super important. Can you tell? I've spent so much time on it already. This is super important. In my notes, it's in all caps. This is the foundation for everything. Every debt plan is unique. There's no like blueprint, like do this, boom, your debt will go away. There is no such thing as that. Every debt plan is unique. So focusing on your why and really starting there is going to guide your decisions and keep you motivated, which is really the key here. So I encourage you to spend serious time on this. With my clients and in the Dominate Your Debt Bootcamp, sometimes we'll spend a week to 2 weeks on this to really uncover what your why is. So I definitely encourage you to come back to this later as well. We're going to do the speed version right now to get you rocking. So the questions to journal about, to answer, to jot down, to think about are, what would being free of my debt allow me to be? What career or life's work might I choose if I didn't have to service my debt anymore? And this was, as I just mentioned, this was a big one for me. Question 2, what would being free of my debt allow me to have? What could I afford if I wasn't making those monthly payments, right? So what would being free of my debt allow me to have? What would not having debt anymore allow me to do? So it'll allow you to work part-time, to move, to take a freaking vacation, for crying out loud. What would not having debt anymore give you the freedom to do? Work part-time, move, take vacation, guilt-free. And finally, what would not having debt anymore give me the freedom from feeling? And I think this is a really big one. So I encourage you to write this down right now. I keep encouraging you. I'm really encouraging. I'm encouraging you today to write this down because that makes it real. So we're going to take about 45 to 60 seconds to do this right now. And if you're not able to see this beautiful slide presentation that we have going on, I'm just going to repeat quietly so the melodious sound of my voice guides you. So what would being free from my debt allow me to be? What would being free from my debt allow me to have? What would being free from my debt allow me to do? And what would being free from my debt give me the freedom from feeling? So take a little time to think through that for yourself. we'll just do, and keep talking quietly so you know I'm still here. We're going to do about another 15, 20 seconds. I wear my sunglasses at night so I can. I want to pay off my debt so I can. Okay, so that's workout one. Definitely come back to this later. Really think it through. Debt domination step number 2. Now that you know your why, or at least you're starting to get things percolating on your why, step number 2 is to educate yourself. You cannot defeat what you don't know. And when it comes to debt, the biggest problem, at least the biggest problem that I see from Facebook and the Twitter, is that many people don't even know what they don't know about debt. So if that's you, you're in good company. There is a lot to know about debt. So today I'm giving you probably a lot more questions than I have answers about this, but the goal is to give you a framework to help you identify what you don't know so you can start getting on the path to knowing it and then obviously dominating it. So if you're like, holy crap, there are a lot of things to know, can't you just teach them to me? Yes, I can, and that's what coaching and my boot camps are for, so if you're into that, stick around. But for now, we're just going to go through a few of them here. So what is debt? Debt is when you borrow money to pay for something, usually because you can't afford it, and to thank your lender for helping you out. I can't even read my own slide. To thank your lender for helping you out, you pay interest on that money until the full amount is paid back. Now this is really important because you can see here already there's a shift in control. Whoever has the goal makes the rules. Your lender is the one giving you the money, your lender is making the rule. And there's 6 major types of debt that most people have, and those are, in no particular order, student loans, credit cards, mortgage, car loan, personal loan, and bills that are in collection. So student loan debt, credit card debt, mortgage, car loan, personal loan, and bills in collection. Among those 6, you may have heard it said that there is, quote, good debt and, quote, bad debt. And I put they in quotes again. What they mean when they're talking about good debt versus bad debt, among those 6, good debt is something that is generally considered to be secured. So that's something that you could sell, or the bank could sell for you if you were unable to pay your debt obligation. Popular ones include mortgages and cars. As far as, and also good debt is something that is widely considered to be incurred, quote, nobly, as a, quote, investment. Are you tired of my air quotes? I'm tired of my air quotes. Incurred nobly as an investment. So that's where the theory that you earn more money with your education degree or your business loan plays in, right? So people would consider that good debt. Bad debt, on the flip side, is debt that is high interest and unsecured. So that would be something like a credit card. Your credit card company can't come and take the TD back if you aren't able to pay your obligation. Maybe the bankruptcy person can, but the credit card company cannot. And also debt that you can't pay or you settle for less than 100%, that's going to ding your credit. So I consider that bad debt as well. Or people would consider that, sorry. They consider that bad debt as well. However, the big takeaway from this is that there is no such thing as good debt. If you've been following along so far, I'm talking about how debt costs you time, money, freedom, and power. So in that sense, there is no such thing as good debt because all debt costs you those things. So let's do a little workout. And like I said, I'm giving you kind of more questions than I am answers here, but I really want to give you some things to be thinking about to educate yourself. So what interest rate am I being charged? That is a big one. You definitely need to know this about all your debt, credit cards, student loans, mortgages, cars, whatever you've got in terms of debt, what interest rate are you being charged on any and all of it? How is the interest being calculated? Is it compounding? Is it compounding daily? Is it compounding monthly? Is it compounding annually? Is it not compounding at all? Is it accruing? How am I being charged that interest? So many different ways. It's all in that nasty fine print. There's so many different ways that they can be charging you that interest. How much of my payment that I make each month is going to principal versus interest? If you have student loans, what are your repayment options? What plan are you on? What are the terms of that plan? Are you on income-based repayment, graduated repayment? When do you apply? Or do you qualify for loan forgiveness? If so, what do you need to do in order to get it? Do you qualify for any incentives? Will they lower your interest rate for a series of on-time payments? Sometimes they do that. If so, if you qualify for any sort of incentives like that, what do you need to do? Do you qualify for any repayment assistance programs? What do you need to do? Consolidation, if you are interested in consolidating your student loans, which would be selling them to another company to lock in a lower interest rate. How much more interest are you going to pay? What's going to be the new term of the loan? Will you keep your incentives? Will you lose them? So much to say on student loans. Some things to be thinking about. And finally, what is your credit score? There is so much to say about credit scores. It is so tightly intertwined with debt because your ability to handle debt actually affects your ability to get credit. So what is your credit score? What negatives are there? What would it take to improve them? So just some things for you to get to know about your debt. And remember that educating yourself is really building on this foundation. So as you can see, we're starting to put together a glimmer of a strategy here. So my group campers and my clients and I do this together. You can get started right here, right now, by finding the answers to these questions about your debt. So that is step number one, know your why. Step number two, educate yourself. Step number three is to simplify. Debt does not exist in a vacuum. So to dominate it, you need to know how it fits into everything else in your finances. Now for me, like this is my bread and butter, Ben & Jerry's peanut brittle ice cream with caramel sauce part. I love this part. So many people don't do this. They don't do the simplification steps, and when they start, it is life-changing. You want to break it down, chunk it out, simplify, and build it back up, keeping your why in mind. When you think about your personal finances, if we were in a room, I would have you go around the table and tell me what you think about, but I'm just going to have to tell you. So thinking about your personal finances, there are so many things to think about, but really there are 5 major pieces of this puzzle, and I call these your BBDs. And these are the things that you want to focus on when creating a plan to dominate your debt. So it's your BBDs, it's not your Belle Biv DeVoe's Voice to My ABC BBDs, but it's easy to remember if you think about that song. It's your bills, budget, debt, savings, and investment. So these are the things that you want to focus on. I'm going to go through each of these one by one very quickly. So your bills is the first one. Bills is your cash flow. What's coming in, what's going out. You need to know both of these things, and you need to know both of these things all the time. So what's coming in, your income, paychecks, bonuses, gifts, etc. What's coming in, fixed expenses in terms of what's going out would be your bills, and then variable expenses, things like your debt, charges, cash. I have a handy-dandy printable template for you. This is one of those Ruby resources that I mentioned. I have a handy-dandy printable template for you that you can get right now or maybe not now, get it after the presentation, RebeccaEve.com/free debt stuff. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel here in terms of keeping track of what's coming in and what's going out. This is very, very simple. So handy-dandy template for you. That's something that you need to be on top of, this cash flow thing, every month. So just look up every month. The second thing, the second area of your BBDs is your budget. And I think there's a big misconception around your budget. This is not the same as bills and cash flow. Cash flow is what you do spend. Budget or your spending plan is what you should spend. Not everyone needs a budget, but if you are going to dominate your debt, you do. I'm just going to say that you need one. You need one because if done right, it's going to help you so much. And a good budget is really an intersection of 3 things. Looking inside, what are your priorities day to day? What are your priorities long term? Is there anything else or anyone else that you need to consider? Look at the numbers. What should you be spending to honor those priorities? And then look at the difference. So is the way that you spend your money right now aligned with your priorities? Or do you need to do some tweaking? Do you need to make more or spend less in order to make it fit? Now, I will say that this budget piece is often the hardest thing to do for people because if the things are not aligned, if the spending habits are not aligned with the priorities, the spending habits can be the hardest thing to change, Sometimes it is nothing more than a small tweak, but it can be a challenge to do that. So having a partner or a pro, just like having a personal trainer to help you bust through and hold you accountable to yourself, can make all the difference. So that's your budget, what you should spend versus what you do spend. The third area of your finances, of course, this is why we're here, is your debt. You've got to know what you owe. If you're going to dominate your debt, you've got to know what you owe, and it's got to be laid out all in one place. There are 5 major things that you're going to look at when it comes to your debt. One is the type of debt. Is it credit card debt, student loan debt, mortgage debt? What kind of debt is it from among those 6 that we talked about? What is the principal balance? In other words, sitting here today, how much do you owe on this debt? 3, what is the interest rate? 4, what is the minimum payment? And then 5, what is the payoff date? So if you keep making that minimum payment, how far in the future is your debt going to get paid off? And like I said, super important to have this all in one place. You can do a spreadsheet, a chart on the wall, any kind of creative thing that you want to do. There's no one way to do it. It really depends on what's going to help you feel organized and motivated. But I really encourage you to take the time to go through and do this. You've got to know what you owe. Well, next and finally, the BBDs. The S is to remember your ABCs. You want to always be seeing money in your savings account if you're going to stay out of that stinky cycle of debt. So questions to ask yourself here, do you have savings? How much? What's your saving style? In other words, like, do you want to save a little bit? Do you want to save one chunk at the end of the month or a little bit throughout the month? Do you only want to save when you get a bonus or commission check? What's your saving style? And then finally, what's your number? Like, what's your savings number? How much do you need to have to feel secure? Balance, I will tell you that balancing your debt and savings is really like the 3 bears. Like, you want to have not too much, not too little, but just right. So between, you know, how much should I put towards my debt? How much should I put towards savings? It depends. It depends on what's right for you based on the answers to these questions. And then the final of the BBDs plus I is this bonus, investments. And investments are the big goal so that you don't have to work until the end of time. So if you're focusing on debt, you're probably not focused as much on your investments, but it's something to definitely be aware of. And because having investments is going to prevent you from working till the end of time. It's going to both grow and generate the income to support you. So asking yourself, looking at your numbers, how much do you have invested? How much is it generating and how much is it growing? This is in a retirement account, stock account, brokerage account, any account that's not cash. How much do you have in there? And how much are you adding to it and how often? So your workout for your BBDs and for simplifying is to pick one area to focus on this week and start small. If you haven't started anywhere, start with that worksheet and get organized. Like, get your bills organized. Definitely no need to do this all at once. This is, for my private clients, a 6-month program. So if you've never done any of these things before, if you're like, BBDs, what? If you've never done any of them before, cut yourself some slack and just start small. So that was steps 1, 2, and 3. Before we get to the 4th one, let me just make sure my slides are over here. Yeah, okay. So before we get to the 4th one, which is actually the most critical, I just want to share with you the essential tools and resources that I have for you to keep you rocking what we're talking about today. So they're at RebeccaEve.com/free debt stuff. There I've got the easiest freaking money management worksheet ever. It's printable. Printable. It's badass, and it will save you a ton of time and aggravation. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Download the worksheet. The other thing that's on there is a debt dominatrix toolkit. This is a list of my top favorite links and resources around the web with some explanations about how to use them. There's calculators, student loan repayment help, credit score, a couple of other cool ones that are going to be really, really helpful, and then I come back to time and time again. And if you're like, girl, I'm really picking up what you're putting down, you're totally speaking my language, and I'm ready to rock this, I do have a few spots open on my calendar this month, so I'm happy to chat with you about what's going on with you and see if I can help. That is what I do, and there's also a link on that page, the free debt stuff page, to make that happen. So Just to recap, we talked about knowing your why. This is the soft and squishy piece. This is what will paying off your debt allow you to be, do, have, and feel. We talked about educating yourself, getting to know your debt, and what it is costing you. And we also talked about simplifying, starting to get on top of your BBDs, starting with your bills. Debt domination step number 4, which is the final step, is to create and commit to your plan. I always say that the best thing that you can do for your debt is to get rid of it as soon as possible, and the worst is to guess about what's possible. A plan is going to help relax you and keep you confident so that you always know what your next step will be. It will keep you out of the stinky cycle. Oh my God. It will cost you the least amount of money possible because you're saving money on interest, and it will help you get rid of your debt as fast as possible. Oh, I had that on the slide. How many? Now here it is. Just making the minimum payment is not a plan. You've probably figured that out by now. In choosing your debt domination strategy, it's really what is best for you. The minimum payment is what your lender has decided is best for it. It's kind of the amount of money that they've decided they'll accept in order not to bother you. So that's it. Like, they're running the show if you're just paying a minimum payment. So we want to know what's best for you, and that's why I emphasize so much the journaling and the looking inside yourself. So the time that minimum payment is a plan is when you've done all these steps and concluded that the minimum payment is the most efficient and cost-effective. But I will tell you that it's usually not. So just there you go. So what does a plan look like? There's no magic wand here. It takes time, and it drives me bananas because there's so much preaching out there. Everyone's plan is unique. What works for someone else is not necessarily going to work for you, and the framework is the most important thing you can do. So here is a playbook to help you put together your plan and understand how you're going to knock it out systematically. Question number 1 for yourself, what debt do I want to attack first and why? So maybe you're saying, like, I will attack my highest interest credit card first, even though it's the highest balance, because I want to save money on interest. Question number 2, when do I want to pay it off by? Why? Maybe you'll say, I want to have it paid off by December 2015, so I can start the new year fresh and focus on finding a new job. Question 3, how much did I borrow versus how much will I pay back? This is where some of those calculators will help you. I borrowed $5,000 and I will pay back $6,278. Thank you, interest. This can be really, really fun if you're into math stuff. I go through this with my clients. Most of them are not into math stuff. 4, how much will I put towards debt versus save? Remember your ABCs, like you want to have a good balance. So maybe you'll say, I want to have $1,000 in savings when my debt is paid off, and that's going to feel good because that will get me through 1 month of living expenses. That's really something that only you can decide. Question number 5 for yourself is, how am I going to afford this? Where is the money coming from? If I'm going to pay my debt off by X date, I need to pay X per month. Where's that money coming from? Can you get creative? So if you're saying, I want to pay it off by this date, but there's not enough money, where are you going to get more? Or spend less. So I'm going to work, for example, maybe I'm going to work 10 catering jobs and sell 5 pairs of shoes on eBay, and that's going to give me $3,000. So that plus my minimum payment will help me pay it off in 6 months. So getting super creative and problem solving for yourself. And then number 6, what prize am I going to teach you this? What prize am I going to keep my eyes on? So just taking these steps, I am going to feel better about this debt, right? But and that will give me the more energy to do the other things that I want to do. What other prizes are you going to keep your eye on? This goes back to your why. So keep rocking. So this was like speed version, debt domination 101. But to keep rocking, just remember that dominating your debt is about what you do, how you feel, and who is in your corner. If you have debt, I hope today is going to be the beginning, not the end. I hope that you're going to start feeling more powerful and in control, and like grabbing your debt by the you-know-what is doable for you. And so just be consistent, be organized, be kind to yourself, and realistic. And if and when you get discouraged or stuck, always go back to your why. Keep your eyes on the prize and find support from someone who's not only going to listen to you whine if you feel like whining, but who's going to also help you strategize, keep your confidence up, and stay focused. Peers or pros can both be great for this. It depends on your habit style. So I'm going to go back to my essential tools. Woo! Come get them. Come and get them. They're going to help you so much. There's the easiest freaking money management worksheet ever. Principal Totally Badass. And the Debt Domination Toolkit, Debt Dominatrix Toolkit. So don't Google without that. And of course, again, if you want to talk with me about your situation, please feel free to reach out. There is a link on that page to schedule a time for us to chat. So there you go. Debt Domination 101.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. That was excellent and so helpful. Just want to say a reminder, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box. And we did have some questions that came in, so we'll move on to that. This first question is, what's the best strategy to pay off your house? I have 28 more years on my loan.
What's the best strategy? Well, that depends on your why. Are you cool with taking 28 years to pay off your house? Do you want to pay it off faster? If you want to pay it off faster, why do you want to pay it off faster? What's your interest rate? Are you going to get more money putting that in an investment than you are in putting it towards your mortgage? So the strategy is really like all the things that we talked about today, and it starts with knowing your why. Like, you can make the minimum payment. Do you want to pay it off sooner? Why? And what is that going to get for you? So I can, so I can't.
Okay, thanks. And the next question is it true that medical debt does not affect your credit rating?
Not to my knowledge, because once it goes into collections, everything gets hello. So it's like, oh, nice surprise. Once it goes to collections, everything shows up on your credit. But I have heard that said before. I'm not sure why that rumor is circulating.
Okay. Moving on, the next question is, should anyone ever pay to have their credit score, to get their credit score?
You know, there are so many free resources to get it now. You can. I mean, there are credit monitoring services that are great for you if there's something that you're worried about, and you can pay for that and get it, through that service. But there are a lot of free resources nowadays to be able to get your credit score. So I personally have never paid for it, and I've never encouraged, I need a new word. I've never encouraged anyone to actually pay for their credit score. Some credit cards now have credit scores built in. So like Capital One, for example, if you have a Capital One credit card, they include a credit score with that credit card, which is pretty exciting. Another way to do it is to sign up for one of the services, and they usually will give you your credit score, and then you can cancel within 14 days and not pay a fee, or 7 days, 14 days, read the fine print. But you can get the score and then cancel whatever the service is. So if you're going to do that, that's also a free way to get your credit score.
Okay, thanks. And I think we have time for one more question, which is, how do you know if debt consolidation programs are a scam? So could you just talk a little bit about that?
How do you know if they're a scam? That's actually a really good question that no one's asked me before. Do your research. I mean, I don't know any, like if you had a specific one that you were, asking about, I would be able to tell you if I heard of that one being a scam or not. I would say if you're talking about student loans, most of them, get it from a good source. So get it from the Department of Education or some such. But do your research in terms of the other ones. There are a lot of shady-ass people out there. There really, really are. So do your research. The chances, like if it's coming from a major bank or a subsidiary of a major bank, obviously it's probably less likely to be a scam. But yeah, there's tons of shady characters out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, I think we're about out of time, but we want to thank you again so much, Rebecca, for such a great presentation. Thanks to everyone who joined us today and asked questions. We hope we'll see you again in the future. And thank you again.
Thank you, guys.